Everyone was taken aback by what happened next. Despite her usual collected demeanor, Australia Zoo matriarch Terri Irwin broke down in tears unexpectedly, and it wasn't during a memorial or tribute. This occasion, though, was distinct. Robert Irwin, her son, had experienced something that caught everyone off guard. This transition was very personal and intense, as Terri's reaction demonstrated in an unusually emotional performance. She had been silently assisting her family through their loss and increased responsibilities for a long time. Something about Robert had changed, though, and it affected her in a way the world had never witnessed before. Terri Irwin's post-Steve journey, the surprise moment, took everyone by surprise. During no ceremony or tribute was the normally strong and composed matriarch of Australia Zoo, Terri Irwin, suddenly inconsolable. This occasion, though, was distinct. Her son Robert Irwin had experienced something out of the ordinary, and nobody had anticipated it. This transition was very personal and intense, as Terri's reaction demonstrated in an unusually emotional performance. As her family struggled with loss and increased responsibilities, she had been quietly at work behind the scenes for years. Something about Robert had changed, though, and it affected her in a way the world had never witnessed before. Long before the crimson dust and feral beasts of Australia, Terri Irwin set off on her adventure. Terri Reigns came into this world in the USA on July 20th, 1964, in the city of Eugene. From an early age, her existence was intrinsically linked to the natural environment and animals, even though it appeared ordinary to those on the outside. Terri spent her childhood in close proximity to animals of all sizes because her family cherished nature. Terri often felt a pull toward helping abused and neglected animals, even though her father was in the trucking industry. She helped out around the family business and did hands-on work with homeless animals in the 1970s and 1980s, setting the stage for a destiny nobody could have foreseen. In 1991, while visiting Australia, Terri had a life-altering experience. There she met the courageous and dedicated conservationist Steve Irwin, who would go on to become a symbol of animal rights around the world. It was fate that brought them together. Two animal advocates on opposite sides of the globe unite in pursuit of a common goal. As fast as the sparks flew, the momentum of their union accelerated. After only a year of dating, Terri tied the knot with Steve on June 4, 1992. Their marriage was more than a union of love. It laid the groundwork for a collaboration that would eventually spark a social revolution. Terri and Steve's joint efforts in the 1990s catapulted a small Queensland wildlife park into a household name. With the debut of the Crocodile Hunter TV series in 1996, the Irwins were instantly famous all over the world. Together, Steve's risk-taking antics and Terri's steady demeanor became an enthralling duo. By airing the show, they were doing more than just entertaining an audience. They were also empowering animals and educating millions. Even though Terri was less vocal than Steve at times, his contribution was crucial. In addition to managing the expanding activities behind the scenes, she provided strategic advocacy to counterbalance his courageous attitude. Bindi Irwin was born to them in 1998, expanding their family. Bindi, who obviously inherited her parents' enthusiasm, began making appearances and visiting the zoo at a young age. Robert, the second child of the Irwins, was born in 2003. They seemed invincible with their two kids and rising star power throughout the world. Aside from raising her children and overseeing the zoo's daily operations, Terri was also hard at work creating the conservation empire that she and Steve had envisioned. Their actions were always directed towards a higher goal, to motivate and safeguard others. Unfortunately, the dream was cut short. The news that Steve Irwin had died after being stung by a stingray while recording a documentary shocked the world on September 4, 2006. Terri became an unexpected widow and single mother at the young age of 42. In a split second, her entire world crumbled. The man she had centered her life around was no longer there, and now she had to carry the burden of carrying on his heritage. Terri persisted even when confronted with unfathomable tragedy. Rather than that, she continued forth. After Steve passed away, Terri had to make a decision that would shape the rest of her life. For the sake of their shared objective and Steve's memory, she would see their work at the Australia Zoo through to completion. Steve Irwin Day was first introduced by her in 2007, a yearly gathering planned to honor his legacy while also bringing attention to the need of protecting wildlife. The day doubled as a memorial and rallying cry, reminding everyone that the struggle for animal rights was far from ended for the Irwin family. A more prominent public persona was adopted by Terri over the latter half of the 2000s and the early 2010s. Her frequent public speaking engagements and documentary appearances allowed her to discuss a wide range of topics, including conservation, resilience, public parenting, and the private experiences of loss and grief. Not only was she revered as the crocodile hunter's wife, but she was also a formidable figure in her own right due to her composed personality, profound remarks, and unwavering commitment. Terri observed her children's rise to fame as they were older. From 2018 to 2022, she encouraged Bindi and Robert as they grew in their jobs at the Australia Zoo and in the media. Crikey, is their TV show, Animal Planet's It's the Irwins, brought the Irwin family's work to a whole new audience. There was more to the series than just watching it. The story continued Steve's legacy by following the journey of a family that is still recovering, working, and committed to protecting animals. The show's consistent and comforting presence of Terri was much appreciated, guiding her children while allowing them room to take the lead. Terri has continued to be actively involved with the Australia Zoo in all areas of operations well into the 2020s. She remains an unsung hero behind the scenes, doing everything from supervising conservation projects to fighting for environmental education. Both her job and her mission remain unchanged. The woman who assisted injured animals in Oregon is still the same woman, currently functioning on an international level with the identical empathy and resolve. Steve's father and Terri's cold relationship. Even though she is strong, her recent emotional response to Robert's growth shows that she is still a mother witnessing her son's incredible growth. During that emotional moment, the people witnessed more than simply the director of the Australia Zoo or the widow of a cherished figure. They witnessed a woman who had endured tremendous burdens, made it through a lot, and is now able to appreciate her family's heritage in a different light. The lack of concern about one's public persona allowed for a really human reaction. It was a silent testament to years of selflessness, unwavering commitment, and a soul that had quietly carried the burden of grief, duty, and optimism. Not only was it a source of immense pride for Terri, but it also signified the end of a meandering road paved with love, loss, perseverance, and purpose. Wildlife is just one aspect of Terri Irwin's narrative. This story is about the importance of family, perseverance, and keeping a commitment. The key is to keep your head held high both in the spotlight and in private. A woman who has made very personal decisions is behind all the glamorous award shows, media appearances, and zoo expansions. Some were joyful, while others suffered in silence, because a considerably more intricate and subdued tale lies behind that legacy. One that Terri has been mum about for a long time, but which has followed her everywhere she goes. Instead of crocodiles and cameras, this narrative is about family strife, emotional distance, and unfinished loss. It revolves around a man's silent rift with Steve Irwin, who he loved very much as well. Bob Irwin, Steve's dad. As Terri worked tirelessly to honor Steve's legacy and grow their conservation efforts in the wake of his untimely death in 2006, a family feud erupted, involving Terri's father in particular. Rumor has it that what started as a philosophical disagreement escalated into a deep and bitter schism, tarnishing their once unwavering dedication to protecting wildlife. The general population has a hard time understanding it. The influence of Bob Irwin on Steve's moral compass and compassion for animals was substantial. He was instrumental in the early days of Australia Zoo's establishment. Nevertheless, the once unified family front started to display indications of strain following Steve's passing. After Steve passed away, the Irwin family dealt with more than simply sadness. The enormous conservation operation that had arisen in Steve's honor presented them with the enormous challenge of continuing and expanding it. The epicenter of it all was the zoo in Australia, where Steve had devoted his life to public education and animal rescue. Quickly seizing the reins of the zoo, Terri ensured that her children would carry on the family's conservation work. She acted as a mother ensuring her children's future and as a wife paying tribute to her husband's legacy. But there were dissenting opinions inside the family with relation to the trajectory of that future. Accusations regarding Terri and Bob Irwin's strained relationship started circulating shortly after Steve passed away. Australian media agencies reported that Bob quietly left the zoo due to conflicts about its direction and administration. However, they never revealed all the details. Over time, he distanced himself from the family, from zoo operations, and from public events. The situation was already delicate, and the fact that no one had spoken frankly about the reasons for the separation just added fuel to the fire. Many questions remained unanswered in the eerie stillness. When Bob Irwin finally spoke up, the public got more information. His interviews revealed a deepening rift between him and Terri and the rest of his family. He refrained from expressing wrath or resentment and did not accuse anyone of wrongdoing. He seemed to be expressing a sense of emotional loss and quiet resignation instead. He went on to say that he felt the zoo's new course of action was at odds with his original goals and principles. He made it clear that he didn't intend to sow discord or cause trouble. He just thought it was best for everyone involved if he stepped back. Afterwards, he vanished from the public eye as part of the Irwin legacy. As for Terri, she spoke very nothing about it. She kept the children and their work as a tribute to Steve alive, but she avoided talking publicly about the split. Nothing was done to rectify the record or assign blame. No interviews were conducted to refute Bob's accusations. Others thought her decision to avoid a public confrontation over private issues reflected her character, as she wanted to preserve the family's honor and the legacy she and Steve had created. Some were hurt by the admission that words cannot heal every wound. One of the more secret and sad stages of Terri Irwin's journey since Steve's loss was her silent rupture with Steve's father. And then there was the debate over Steve's legacy. But as time went on and the family legacy changed, another topic came up in public discourse: claims that Terri had made too much money off of Steve Irwin's reputation. For many fans and onlookers, this controversy hit close to home. Steps to take in commemoration of a cherished symbol without making money off of them. Steve Irwin was well known for more than just his TV appearances. He was adored by many and served as an inspiration to those who cared about animal protection. After his untimely passing in 2006, Terri took it upon herself to continue his work. An enormous task lay ahead of her: what to do to keep Steve in the spotlight while also paying tribute to his principles and lending support to continuing conservation initiatives. However, striking this equilibrium was no picnic, and not everyone was pleased with the results. The commercialization of Steve's legacy, according to some detractors, is out of hand, especially with the proliferation of merchandise and media initiatives. Toys, apparel, documentaries, and reality TV series featuring Steve became an overwhelming presence in marketplaces throughout the globe. Some saw this as a move away from conservation and toward projects driven by profit. Concerns surfaced on whether the emphasis had strayed too far from the central objective that Steve had vigorously advocated for. Instead of using Steve's image to educate and protect wildlife, his detractors were upset that it was being used to sell items. What they saw as an authentic movement founded on practical conservation efforts was, in their view, turning into a brand, they said. The growing visibility of the Irwin family on news shows like Crikey has only served to heighten their worries. Along with being a source of entertainment and education, the Irwins served as a promotional tool for the Irwin family. For some, it seemed like there was no clear boundary between making people aware and taking advantage of them for profit. Much controversy ensued in the media and among fans as a result of these claims. Terri Irwin's question is whether she was honoring her late husband's memory or leveraging his name to sustain a prosperous empire. Has the expansion of conservation-related items and media ventures contributed to funding or diminished the mission's authenticity? Given the immense popular adoration for Steve Irwin, the questions were particularly weighty and emotionally charged. Opponents of Terri's strategy countered with arguments in favor of his method. They stressed that Steve's impact will evolve with time. It had to change if it wanted to continue having an effect. Advertising and merchandise were seen as means to an end, rather than diversion, from this point of view. They stated that the money raised by these initiatives was vital to the sustainability of conservation initiatives like the Australia Zoo. Protecting endangered animals and educating the public would be a lot more difficult without the exposure and money from item sales and television. The Meritorious cited Terri's extensive record of selflessness and devotion. Ever since Steve passed away, she has been leading Australia's zoo with poise and resolve, despite facing enormous obstacles. Many saw her actions as indicative of a sincere desire to save the environment rather than pursue personal financial gain. It was common practice to reinvest the profits from branded goods and media projects into animal welfare, habitat protection, and wildlife programs. One series that exemplified this dynamic was Crikey, the Irwin. It served as a source of amusement for people all over the world and broadened conservation efforts. But it also highlighted the family's unwavering commitment to Steve's objective. Bindi, Robert, and Terri's audiences witnessed their heartfelt dedication to the roles. That the family's media footprint extended beyond the entertainment industry contributed to a change in popular opinion. A more comprehensive plan for education and preservation included it. The idea that Steve had used media and merchandise to bring people closer to animals was also advanced by many. His innovative TV series and engaging personality made environmental protection fun and approachable for a wide audience. Looking at it this way, Terri and the family were carrying on the tradition that Steve had started by using new media and advertising to spread his message to younger audiences. The complexity of Terri Irwin's life is on display in the discussion around his dual citizenship and how he has handled Steve Irwin's legacy, juggling tributes to his memory with the demands of modern life. One of the more surprising controversy that arises during her voyage is related to citizenship, which is completely unrelated to wildlife or media ventures. The fact that Terri is a dual citizen has ignited discussions around patriotism, loyalty, and the significance of representing a cherished Australian icon internationally. Terri Raines was born Terri Irwin in the American city of Eugene, Oregon. She traveled halfway across the globe to be a part of Steve Irwin's life and mission after meeting and marrying him in 1992 in Australia. Terri maintained her U.S. citizenship even after relocating to Australia and actively participating in the country's environmental initiatives. This dual position, being legally bound to both the United States and Australia, would subsequently spark public debate and controversy. Many Australians and observers started to wonder if Terri should officially become an Australian citizen as the years went on and she became the public face of the Irwin family. Some people found the argument to be very simple. An iconic figure for Australia, Steve Irwin personified the nation's love of nature and pride in its heritage. Some think Terri's official loyalty should be totally with Australia, as she is both his widow and the head of Australia's zoo. After all, she was portrayed as standing for something very important to the history and culture of Australia. Questions of citizenship brought up more generalized concerns about identity and belonging. When Terri became a full Australian, did she lose her American citizenship? Can she possibly be both? Did her citizenship status impact her capacity to faithfully continue Steve's legacy? This is the most crucial question. After some time had passed, Terri openly answered these questions. She made it clear that she was a proud dual citizen who actively participated in and benefited from both nations' cultures. She did not see loyalty as a binary choice. She recognized the significance of both American and Australian culture in her life and career, and she wholeheartedly embraced both. Citizenship is more than simply a piece of paper, and her explanation helped put it in context. A person's past, family, and dedication were all reflected in it. Many people in today's globally linked world can relate to Terri's dual affiliation. Her ancestry was American. However, Australia was where she truly belonged. By bringing attention to conservation initiatives in Queensland from around the world, her work served as a conduit between the two nations. Some felt their worries were allayed by this explanation. It demonstrated how far-reaching Terri's commitment to animals and Steve's dream were. Although her citizenship was an important part of who she was, it in no way shaped her drive or purpose. Regardless of her legal status, her leadership at the Australia Zoo and her activism for environmental causes revealed a profound commitment to conservation in Australia. Down goes Terri Irwin. Hearsay about a potential romance. People used to wonder about Terri Irwin's nationality and identity because he was a dual citizen. Nevertheless, in light of the years of ceaseless curiosity around her private life, even that discussion appeared insignificant. In particular, the allegations that have circulated since Steve Irwin's death about her love affairs. Despite Terri's unwavering commitment to her family and carrying on her late husband's environmental cause, tabloids persisted in speculating that she would be dating again. This, however, is completely false, as Terri herself claims. Following Steve Irwin's death in 2006, Terri has been in the tabloids on multiple occasions, not because of her conservation efforts or public appearances, but because of rumored ties with famous people, the most prominent of whom being Australian actor Russell Crowe. The media continued to promote the idea of an unofficial romance, even though there was never any evidence of it. Public appearances, complimentary remarks made in interviews, and even small acts like showing up to the same event led the media to conclude that there was more going on than just a friendship. The press appeared intent on creating an alternate reality, replete with provocative headlines and made-up love tales, even though neither Terri nor Russell ever acknowledged anything amorous. The interest in Terri's romantic status extended beyond her relationship with Crowe. Her association with other famous people has been rumored for a long time, but never proven. Her perseverance in the public eye only served to fuel these speculations. Terri was often photographed at public occasions because to her status as the face of Australia's zoo and her recognition in worldwide conservation circles. Every picture or fleeting meeting, often with famous people or other eco-warriors, served as a springboard for speculation. The media went wild because she was so coy about discussing her private life. There were no clear-cut solutions, so several tabloids made up their own. The fact that Terri remained prominent in public life contributed to the persistence of these rumors. She was a regular sight at events, fundraisers, and TV appearances as the head of the Australia Zoo and the custodian of Steve's legacy. As soon as she was shown in a photo with anyone, especially a famous person, speculation began. Persistent coverage of her private life was a result of the public's insatiable curiosity, which was driven more by rumors than reality. The tabloids continued to speculate and fabricate stories as Terri continued to remain silent on the subject. However, Terri Irwin did express his views, and he did it with passion, clarity, and consistency. She has consistently denied having a romantic relationship with Russell Crowe or anyone else in interviews given throughout the years. She responded calmly and honestly, without becoming defensive or overly theatrical. She revealed that she had no intention of dating again after Steve's death. Terri did not view this as a heartbreaking proclamation of grief. It was a love-based, intimate truth. She came right out and said that Steve was her one true love and that their bond had endured the test of time. Never has Terri presented herself as someone who is hopelessly bereft or mired in reminiscence. She is more effusive in her praise of Steve, characterizing their bond as unique and special, not because she is hopelessly depressed, but since she had what she thought was the greatest romantic partner before. She has stated that she has no desire to find another one. Their existence together brought her much joy and contentment, and that goal remained even after Steve passed away. It progressed, raising Bindi and Robert, spearheading conservation efforts, and carrying on the legacy of what she and Steve created together kept her days full with purpose. As he watches, Terri Irwin chokes up. After Steve, there was Robert Lead. Terri Irwin has been a well-known figure for a long time. She originally came to fame as the loving wife of the late, great wildlife fighter, Steve Irwin, and thereafter as his tenacious widow, who continued his work. After Steve's unexpected death in 2006, she went through a period of worldwide mourning, became the head of the Australia Zoo, and raised their two children, Robert and Bindi, mostly under the burden of tremendous expectation. Maintained composure, dignity, and concentration throughout. However, she recently shed tears over something very personal. Nothing tragic or difficult happened, but she felt an overwhelming sense of pride in her son Robert Irwin after witnessing his remarkable growth, a change she had not experienced before Steve's death. Robert Irwin, like his father before him, had an early passion for animals, adventure, and knowledge. The world has witnessed his transformation from an inquisitive and active small child into an assured and captivating young man. He looked tailor-made for the part, making appearances on talk shows, becoming a known face at the Australia Zoo, and expertly handling snakes and crocodiles. Terri, however, saw something much more profound, the continuation of love, promise, and family purpose, than what the outside world perceived as he stepped into Steve's shoes. What some may perceive as a young guy carrying on his father's work, Terri perceived as something extraordinarily meaningful. The transformation of a youngster who had previously wept in silence into a young man who now passionately and powerfully carried the flame, while also developing his own unique voice. Terri recently gave Sunrise Australia an emotional interview in which he revealed an unusually vulnerable experience. He's his own person, with his own strength, and that just hits me so hard, Terri said, her words resonating with viewers across the country. Her words conveyed more than just the admiration of a proud mother. They also released years of unsaid fears, hopes, and the emotional weight of carrying on her husband's dream for their children. The moment that moved her so profoundly occurred during a major wildlife presentation at the Australia Zoo, where Robert led a conservation event with such conviction and emotion that it halted Terri in her tracks. I've watched that presentation before, she continued in the same interview, but something about this time impacted her. He was doing more than that. I could feel Steve's pride radiating off of him as he took charge, believed everything said, and led with conviction. That epiphany she had while seeing her kids coming of age, both as Steve's son and as an independent, strong individual, prompted the emotional response. All those years of hard work, behind the scenes and in their house and at Australia's zoo, paid off at this emotional moment. Not only did Terri have to overcome her grief after Steve's death, but she also had the immense burden of safeguarding her children from the suffocating pressure of public expectation. The idea that her children will become someone other than themselves as a result of the pressure to live up to the Irwin name was her greatest concern. She told the Courier Mail in an interview from 2021, "I hope they would stop imitating their dads and start speaking with their own voices." Terri made it his life's work to strike a balance between paying homage to the past and letting it limit him. It was a long road for Robert. His resemblance to Steve, their boundless energy, and their innate comfort around animals led to frequent comparisons between the two when he was a kid. But Terri saw that Robert couldn't succeed unless he came into his own. The public couldn't witness the entire extent of this change in Terri's TV appearances or Instagram photos, as she described in another verified interview with the Sunday Project. Little things like Robert staying late to tend to ill animals, his understated choices on the zoo's conservation initiatives, and the handwritten notes he left for his younger, more aspiring zookeepers are what really matter. These unnoticed, behind-the-scenes actions meant a lot to Terri. She knew she was seeing more than simply the carrying on of a legacy as she observed her son rise to the challenge with conviction and conviction. A fresh chapter was being unveiled before her eyes. In a confirmed 2022 interview with 60 Minutes Australia, Terri discussed the mental and emotional challenges of seeing her children develop up without their dad. The small boy sobbing at Steve's memorial comes to mind every time Robert dons that khaki uniform, she remarked. Currently, he is in the position of leading trips, training people, and protecting animals. It's absolutely mind-blowing. As she reminisced, her voice quivered under the strain of time's relentless march against her appreciation for their progress. Publicly, Robert's conservation photography, rising star status in Crikey, an ever-increasing list of achievements gave glimpses of this metamorphosis. Across Australia, people were captivated by the Irwins, his interviews, and his meteorological guest appearance, which went viral. However, Terri, inspired by her mother's wisdom, discerned a more profound truth. A young man maturing into a man who never asked for, but never feared, the responsibility that came with his position. Terri stated in an interview with Australian Women's Weekly from 2023 that she had never pressured him. All I did was allow him to be inquisitive, send him on his own journey. However, I was pleasantly surprised by how seriously he has taken all of this. My emotions are triggered by that. Steve's absence is irrelevant. Learn how Steve's aspirations are still alive and well in this moving tribute. Robert embodies their essence. There was more to her tears than melancholy. They revolved around finding happiness and the profound, occasionally agonizing, beauty of witnessing another person's true self-discovery. I don't think the hardest part of grief is not the day someone dies, she said in an interview with ABC News that she verified. After that, it's every day. Not only has Robert given me hope, but he has also brought me calm. Doing so was not required of him. After that, he called himself Robert. Plus, that is just stunning. The goal of Terri's journey has always been to find a life partner to replace her husband. The focus has been on paying homage to the past while fostering a bright future. She has witnessed the complete fulfillment of that objective via Robert's progress.